future of financial reporting. Now we have seen that how technology is evolving and how technology is going to change, and whether this is going to change our future of financial reporting also, and other challenges. To discuss that, we have a panel. We have a good panelist, which will be moderated by none other than CA SB Javre sir, AOSG SSG chairman. And we have a panelist, CA Amarjit Chopra sir, past president ICI, CA Nilesh Vikamse sir, past president ICI, and PR Ramesh sir, ex-chairman Deloitte. So without taking much time, I request my regional council colleague, and I also recognize the presence of CCM, CA Durgesh Kabra sir. Now I request CA Hitesh Komal, my regional council colleague, to kindly introduce today's moderator as well as panelists.
Thank you very much, Manish bhai. Very good evening. Very good evening to all the dignitaries. And Manish bhai, at the outset, let me say that I am being bestowed upon the easiest part of the session to introduce the panelists, and that too the stalwarts of our profession. None of the panelists needs any introduction amongst our fraternity, at least I should say. But still, I will try to briefly introduce them. And first of all, will introduce with my mentor, CA Amarjit Chopra sir. CA Amarjit Chopra sir was the president of our institute in the year 2010-11, and during his tenure as CCM and even after the completion of his presidency, he has served the institute with full zeal, and he has delivered around 3,000 lectures on the varied topics of the professional interest, and in itself speaks the volumes about his passion to serve the profession. Needless to say that he has held the multiple posts at the prestigious organizations throughout his professional career so far, and he is presently on the board of many of the listed companies, and as well as the ICI Accounting Research Foundation Limited, and he is on the board of governors of Institute of Management Studies, Ghaziabad. Then I will introduce our another past president, sir, CA Nilesh Vikamse sir. CA Nilesh Vikamse sir is into his 35th year of the professional career. Sir is also the past president of our institute, and he has held the highest post of the institute in the year 2017-18, and he has successfully championed the many causes of the professional interest during his tenure at the Central Council. Sir is on the board of the many listed companies including IIFL Holding, Thomas Cook India, PNB Housing Finance, and so on. He is presently a member of many of the committees of ICAI as well as the SEBI, CDSL, then erstwhile NIFM, then BCAS and all. I will introduce CAPR Ramesh sir. Sir, CAPR Ramesh sir has over 40 years of experience as a chartered accountant, and he is a former chairman of Deloitte India. He has served as the member of our many committees of our institute, and he has delivered lectures extensively in India as well as abroad on the variety of the subject, including auditing as well as the accounting subjects. He is in the CIA. He is a member of National Council Committee of Financial Reporting, Committee of Economic Affairs, and Committee on Regulatory Affairs and Governance. And now the moderator of today's session, our own Sivaji Bikhaji Javre sir, to whom we always call him fondly our Javre sir. He is a chartered accountant who is loved and respected by not only chartered accountants but CA students also in equal proportion. CA Dr. Javre sir has been a prolific speaker on the various topics, and he has served the Central Council of our institute, and having been elected from the Western region for the years 2010 to 19. He has held the chairmanship of Accounting Standard Board of our institute from 16 to 19. He can be given the credit of inventing the concept of UDIN, obviously, which is now popular in our profession. Not only his professional contribution, but his social contribution also gives us a glimpse of his personality. Lifetime Achievement Award for the contribution to the fields of chartered accountancy, education, administration, and social work conferred by the Maharashtra Cosmopolitan Education Society and Alana Institute of Management Sciences, Pune. Today, with these stalwarts, the panelists will be discussing. Then let us hear from there only, with under the moderatorship of Javre sir, that what they visualize the profession of auditing profession in future. Over to you, Manish bhai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hitesh bhai. And before inviting Javre sir to start a panel discussion, we have with us CA Durgesh Kabra, Central Council member. I request sir to share his word of wisdom.
Thank you, Manishji. And thanks to Lalit Bajaj, the chairman of the WARC, for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this wonderful conference which he has organized. Respected Amarjit Chopra, sir, past president. Respected Nilesh Bhai, he becomes a past president of ICAI. CAPR Ramesh ji, the moderator of the session and chairman of AOSSG, popularly known as Guruji, also CA SB Javre ji, Manish Gadia ji, Hitesh Pomal ji, and PR Ramesh ji. Friends, as far as the future of financial reporting is concerned, let me begin with a quote. Challenges are gifts that force us to search for new center of gravity. Don't find them, just find a new way to step. In today's economic environment, stakeholders have grown beyond shareholders, and there is one of the primary reasons why we are hearing so many plaintive noise these days. Communication is as important as reporting. And just prevention is better than cure. The auditor is supposed to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Although it is a high time and level of assurance for all of us, it is not absolute assurance. Would audit quality be improved if there be some form of standardization in the collection of audit data? Should it have stamp of authenticity when it passes from the management to the auditor? Should the substantive analytical procedure performed by an auditor have a stamp of standardization? After all, standardization stands for assured quality. It's, in the Bryden report and review in England and Wales, it suggests a redefinition of the audit and its purpose, making auditing an independent profession, which is not an extension of accounting, extension of concept of auditing to areas beyond financial statements. More engagement of shareholders with audit and auditors, change in language of opinion from true and fair to present fairly in all material respect, provide greater clarity around the role of audit committee and embracing the increased use of technology. So it is the case with Kingman Review, England and Wales, that recommends the creation of Audit, Reporting and Governance Authority, and ICAI being the regulator of accounting and auditing profession in India has taken a lead in forming the Center for Audit Quality, which will provide the regulatory mechanism for determining the audit quality of the firms. Kingman Review also recommends that the regulators' corporate reporting work should be extended from its current limited scope to cover the entire annual report. It lays stress on the fact that the regulator needs to engage at more senior level in a much wider and deeper dialogue with the investor, both fund manager and representative of the end investor. Friends, it reminds me a small poem which is as old as from 1930 about the accountant's report. We have audited the balance sheet and here is our report. The cash is overstated, the cashier being short, the customers receivable are very much past due. If there are any good ones, there are very, very few. The inventories are out of date and practically junk, and the method of their pricing is very largely bunk. According to our figures, the enterprise is red, but subject to these comments, the balance sheet is correct. I believe we as new age professional should break this one and rise to the new heights by developing skill set and adopting new technologies to overcome challenges in the financial reporting. And I'm leaving all of you with the thoughts how we all can focus on best quality reporting in assurance and audit services, which makes us feel proud and no one raise finger on us and we achieve highest level of glory in our profession. We have three stalwarts today to guide us on the future of financial reporting, which will be ably moderated by SB Javre sir. With this, thank you all friends. Thanks a lot to the chairman for giving me an opportunity to say a few words. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Durgesh sir. Now I request SB Javre sir, Guruji, to take over the session forward. Over to you, Javre sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
Sir.
Thank you.
We
Good
can hear
evening
you,
and
but you are
welcome
not
to the
visible,
session.
sir.
Am I visible?
No, you are
No,
not
you
visible.
are not.
I am not visible. Okay.
Yeah, you
No,
are.
so you are not visible, but you are audible.
You are right
Okay.
now, Mr. India.
Oh. Thank you. Let me see. The people are here with me.
शेयर माय वेबकैम करता हूँ या शेयर माय वेबकैम किया अभी हमने आ रहा है
You might have received the share my webcam on your screen.
Because you are audible. So meanwhile it is set up. Your video you can start because audio is audible. Javre sir. Javre sir. Meanwhile, Javre sir is doing the logistic or setting his technology.
मनीष सर जावरे सर वापस से लॉगिन कर रहे हैं
Yeah. So meanwhile, I request Chopra sir to give
Am I
some
clear
remarks.
now? Am I audible?
Yeah,
No, no,
yeah, you are
he's
audible,
back.
sir.
Okay. Am I visible?
No, sir, you are not still visible, but you are audible. So you can continue with your audio, sir.
Okay.
Now you
Okay.
are visible.
Yeah, now visible, now visible.
Right. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the session of Future of Financial Reporting with stalwart panelists. First of all, I am thank you to the WRC team under the able leadership of Lalit Bajaj. I also thank you to CA Durgesh Kabraji for his opening remarks. I, along with Chopra ji, witnessed prior AS era. Accounting Standard Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has been established in April 1977. I, as well as other panelists, have witnessed manual accounting to computerized accounting and even from AS to IFRS converged Ind AS. I recall those years where the accounting standards just started, that is, even prior and after AS era, we could say that we follow accrual as one of the fundamental accounting assumption and certify the financial statements as true and fair. However, the accounting was absurd in various areas such as lease accounting, in particular financial leases, income tax provisioning, accounting for construction contracts, depreciation on fixed assets, now we call PPE, reserved for unexpired risk in case of the insurance company, and even the provision for NPAs. We have moved from historical cost accounting to fair value based accounting under the Ind AS. Still, we have belief in India that historical cost-based accounting reflect true and fair view of the financial statements for non-Ind AS entities. But at the same time, we insist upon fair value-based accounting for Ind AS companies and other entities, even like InvIT, REIT, banks, insurance. We have traveled, rather, we are still traveling from rule-based accounting to principle-based accounting, from AS to Ind AS, and still we believe this is one of the area we are going to talk about. Both the basis of rule-based as well as principle-based accounting reflects true and fair view of the financial statements. My panelists will agree that thus in India, we are following the dual standards and parameters for financial reporting. We are going to debate on this. XBRL reporting, by using the taxonomy, though initiated by MCA as a regulator, has limited use to stakeholders so far. Now, financial reporting through general purpose financial statements is primarily focused with the expectations of primary users. Who are the primary users? Investors, present and the future, lenders and other creators. And secondary users are also benefited by adjusting the data in a befitting manner. Still, there is a need to enhance the transparency and from the viewpoint of even preparers and the auditors. This is very important. India's applicability in India to banking and insurance sector has been postponed and yet to be decided by regulators. You will agree with me that the corona pandemic has interrupted and disturbed economies of the commercial entities and has now started to revive and re-establish. But financial reporting has enhanced the scope in terms of additional information to be passed on to the various stakeholders. The areas to some extent of non-financial reporting, like social, environmental, sustainability, are being deliberated for standardization as at present at various global platforms for forming part of the future financial reporting. Simultaneously, my panelists will agree with me. Globally, there are two schools of thought, IASB and FASB, rule-based financial reporting standards and principle-based financial reporting standards. So is there a need that these two standard set of organizations should come together and design standards? For some of the recent IFRS standards, they are together, they have taken the projects jointly. My dear friends, with these backgrounds, I will go to the panelists one by one, and we are going to now deliberate on issues. First of all, I welcome CA Amarjit Chopra ji. Sir, the chair of International Accounting Standard Board, Hans Hugerhost, said that institutional investors are interested in the core of financial reporting, but the interest goes much further. They are also interested in social, governance information and other related information closely knitting together. So with this, he suggested robust corporate performance management tool may serve the purpose. Lot of deliberations for environmental, social, sustainability are reported either by way of separate management commentary or by way of integral reporting as a part of financial statements. So my question to Chopra ji is, sir, what are your views on this particular issue, whether this social governance information and other relevant information, whether to be part of the management commentary or whether it is to be taken under integrated reporting or part of the financial reporting? And one more related question on this, whether sustainability standards or sustainability reporting standard should be a part of financial reporting standard. Over to Chopra ji.
Thank you very much, Jhavare Saab. I go back to the earlier years when we were together in the council and had a lot to deliberate upon many of the topics. And of course, my compliments to the WIRC for this particular program, in this panel discussion. And of course, I've got two most distinguished panelists along with me, Mr. P.R. Ramesh and Mr. Nilesh Vikkamsar. The question that you have raised is very, very pertinent, but at the same time, I'm trying to raise another issue. Have we actually already settled down with even financial reporting so far? You see, we all talk of sustainability reporting, we talk of environmental reporting, we talk of everything, whatever can be the social reporting. We definitely need to take into consideration that particular part. But my main worry is that in a world where even financial reporting is still to stabilize, maybe due to the greed of the promoters, maybe due to the greed of some of the other persons, we have not been able to even, if you ask me today, even in India, are we not grappling with even the existing accounting standards? Impairment of assets for that particular matter is one of the standards. Intangible assets is another standard. Intangible asset is another standard. We are grappling with that. And when it comes to Ind AS, we are grappling with the standard on leases, revenue recognition, and others. And fair value accounting itself is a major challenge. And we are talking of making all the sustainability reporting or the social reporting to be a part of the financial reporting. To me, it's a huge, huge challenge. I personally feel the companies which want to report it, they may continue to report it separately. But I don't think that this should be made a part of the financial reporting. That's my personal view. I think Institute can differ if Institute wants to differ on that. But I personally feel this is a useful information, no doubt about it. I personally feel if the company is spending on CSR, what is the outcome of that CSR, where that money goes and how it really leads to the improvement of the society. That could be one of the reporting part, but then that's for the company to provide it separately. It cannot be a part of the financial reporting in any case. And I think the complications that we have in the financial reporting already, which have not stabilized so far, we will make it all the worse by incorporating anything else today. And where I sometimes feel that as Chairman Nakas, we talked of Ind AS, we talked of many other things, where the people in the Mufassil towns are still grappling with the accounting standards. And I admit it, I'm not mincing words on that. Basically, if we start looking at the various financial statements, the auditors' reports, and sitting over in the disciplinary committee, one comes across those kind of situations. One feels very worried as to what we are talking of all these kind of reporting. So let's the accounting and Ind AS accounting standards and India stabilize. We will talk of the other reporting also, but if the companies want to give some kind of social reporting, which enables the reader to know what kind of social work or what kind of sustainability report, sustainability work is being done by the company, that will be reported. I don't mind doing that, but I don't think that it should be a part of the financial reporting.
Sir, you are of the view that basic accounting standards are required to be followed, and even today, the preparer as well as auditor grapple with the basic accounting standards, and therefore the basic accounting is yet to be stabilized. Unless and until this basic accounting is stabilized, how can we go for this extended financial reporting? That is your view.
True.
May I request other panelists, you have any other view?
I'll just chip in before Ramesh chips in. Ramesh can have the last word as always. First, let me say it's a privilege to be here on the panel with Chopra Sahab, who's been my, I would say, principal. I joined the council when he was the president, so whatever myself and Sahab are, thanks to the training which is given us. And of course, PR Ramesh is a person who I always have an, I would say, I don't know, I hold him in awe in the sense he can even deal with the most mundane of topics, and he can sort of, his communication is so good. Holding huge audiences in I would say raptures even for audit documentation and all. So it's a pleasure to. And Zaware Sahab, what about you in the sense?
Yes,
I would say you are the youngest member of the council, though being the oldest. The amount of energy which you had, I don't think any other council member had the energy. So it's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
What Chopra Sahab said was of course right, saying that the accounting standards and the, I would say, the ESG or the integrated reporting and the sustainability cannot be merged, and we need to stabilize. But the challenge, I think, what we need to understand is today the world has moved on. Earlier, the performance parameters were also the financial parameters. But now today, what the investors or the stakeholders are looking at other parameters also with equal importance, whether the entity will be sustainable in long term, whether it will be only viable for the short term or sustainable, whether how far it is in, sort of in sync with the environmental safety or with the, governance norms or the social, the other matters. So all these parameters, it need not be necessarily part of the financial reporting, but I think the overall reporting is what is the stakeholders, the learned, the people who are investing, the capital holders are looking at these particular parameters also from a better world to live in going forward for our next generation. So I think we cannot ignore these parameters. Yeah. Having said that, we need to stabilize what Chopra Sir was absolutely right on the implementation of the existing standards on the financial side. At the same time, I think the leading companies will not have a choice but to focus on the integrated reporting and the sustainability reporting and the likes, ESG reporting, etc. So there is no choice but to go for it. That's what the investors will demand. That's what I just wanted to add.
But Nilesh,
Yeah.
even statutorily, if we start in India with Mao Coro 1975, Mao Coro 1988, Coro 2003, and the recent Coro 2020, which will start from the next financial year, lot of non-financial information is required to be reported. So my little bit question to you also, whether this type of reporting should be integral reporting or a part of financial reporting itself, or there should be a separate reporting. That was really my question to Chopra ji. You can highlight, and Ramesh will also take further.
In my view, it cannot be part of the financial reporting, but it can be an overall part of the report which we come out with, whether we call it a integrated report or whatever the reporting it may be. Because financial reporting is, of course, absolutely distinct, and to get these other parameters, non-financial parameters into the financial, I think will have its own complication. But those performance parameters on those areas also need to be factored in the overall reporting, apart from the financial reporting. That's what my
right. I agree with you. Ramesh ji, you have to say something on this?
Yes. I am the odd man out in this panel because I have never been in the council, and therefore my views may not be as authoritative as my illustrious panel are, including Risa. So, having said that, I think I entirely agree with Chopra ji, and for a variety of reasons. One is, historically, financial reporting emerged because people wanted to know how a business performed and what is its condition. That very for business performance and condition has over the years completely transformed. Today, people want to view business differently, not just about how much profit it made. They also want to know what is the business doing so far as environment. That is the hard reality. That is why the shift or the debate is saying, how can we the user's thirst for understanding a business? But you're right about the quality of financial reporting. I can tell you progressively, I think financial reporting is outliving its utility for a variety of, not just the quality or some of the erroneous reports which have happened, but I think it's outlived its utility because of the content. Second, because of quality for sure. Now let me deal with the content. It is outliving its utility because you look at any balance sheet of P&L, half the figures are outdated. In a 100-year-old company, half the numbers are 100 years old, and other half are current fair value numbers. So we have so it's neither here nor there. Second is because of our own, it is not about compliance with standards. I personally think a lot of our standards need to be revisited because our standards again are lost in time. We need to remove the options in the standard. Two companies for using two different options, the results are completely different. Are we achieving comparability? The answer is no. Only an expert will have to read the accounting policies and then say, oh, these are not comparable. And then we are not able to measure what is relevant. If you look at any of the analyst calls, They are asking for information which is not in the financial statements. How many new customers did you win? How many suppliers have you lost? What are the 10 most profitable contracts of yours? What are the new product launches? Whole host of things which is not there in. And then additional dimension is the shift from what used to be historical in so far as in historical information. People then shifted to seeking more insights, but now they're seeking foresights. In the technology world, you need information real time for the future. People are looking at futuristic information which is not available in the
Wait,
so you
wait, wait.
can't
We are wait.
for
Exactly
decision
we are
making.
talking about. One minute, Murli. What we are talking about, you are seeing is a reality. That when there are options, some companies follow one option, some companies follow another option. Though we are trying to reduce to one option in India. Now, so far, now you can continue your discussion with this approach. Historical accounting, and you raise the issue of forecast accounting or future accounting. That means you should give the information to the stakeholders much more about the company. My
No.
question, related question to that only to you, that means in case if this future financial reporting based on estimates and based on forecast is also a part of financial reporting, how auditor
No.
will be
No,
able
I'm
to
not.
have
No.
that judgment?
That's not
I'm
what you
not
said.
putting up those things. I am saying your financial reports have either to be used, should have confirmatory value or should have predictive value.
Yeah.
You,
Okay.
unfortunately, even in confirmative value, there is so much deficiency. Forget about the fact that it can be useful for any future decision making.
Predictive.
Not even a useful tool for predictive value. That's all I want
Okay.
to.
Javed
Right,
Saab,
right.
if you permit
Rajesh
me
sir.
to say so, I think
Chopra
I said one thing very clearly. The companies which want to give information should be giving the information. Without doubt, there is no doubt in my mind. And I think what Ramesh said is very, very relevant. You see, there can be certain parameters based upon which you can assess the business as to where it is moving. Because when we talk of the sustainability of the business itself, I think the number of customers that you have won, the example that he gave for that particular matter. If you are
Yes.
losing customers every year, basically, I think this is no good. And probably one of the major questions could be somewhere to be asked and to be answered, whether you have lost any of the customers which was constituted 5% or 10% of your total turnover. So I think those kind of questions can we have asked the questions in Caro today. Even with regard to the Benami transactions, we have asked the questions in the Caro with regard to the defaults in the loans. We have asked the questions with regard to the unutilization of the funds. So all kind of questions have been asked by us in the Caro. So certain kind of questions can be asked somewhere else, or it can be prescriptive, but it should not be mingled with the financial reporting, but it could be made a part of as an annexure. That's the only point I'm trying to say, because this has nothing to do with my financial accounting, which is more historical. But yes, certain things which can throw some value, which can generate some value for the reader of the financial statements with regard to the organization that for which the financial statements are being given, that information should be given. I am not denying that particular part. But what I am trying to say is, and I repeat it, it cannot be merged with my financial reporting part, number one.
Sir, what is happening? Sir, what is happening now?
Number two, the companies beyond a particular threshold level, I think you can ask them to provide any kind of information which has more value. And the top 100 companies in Nifty, for that matter, on BSE, probably you can ask them to provide any kind of information. Why not? After all, they constitute the major capitalization in the market. So all those kind of situations can be seen.
Sir, I am asking two type of information. Whether this should form the part of financial reporting. You said no, then it should be a part of the management commentary. Because my difficulty is, in case it is a part of financial reporting and it is subject to audit, there are so many forecasts and so many judgments of the management. There will be a question on auditors. That was my little bit question to PR Ramesh, but no problem, sir. We will
No, I will
discuss
answer
further.
that question. Let me answer that question.
He will have
Please,
the
please,
last
please.
laugh.
I think it's academic, whether you call it part of financial report, call it part of management commentary, it will be part of a report.
Yeah.
Second,
Yes.
there is a need for any information which is being put out to be attested in some form so that there is credibility. We can't escape that. Now, if that is futuristic, the profession has to learn or equip itself to be able to provide some sort of it. Otherwise, we say we are only can verify what has happened. We can't look at the future. Then what are we? Aren't we experts in understanding? Aren't we experts in analyzing trends? Shouldn't we move with the tide and start being able to position ourselves saying, fine, that anybody could go wrong. But the fact is, that is the need. If you don't want to meet the need, the world will move on. We will be in the past. Slowly, we will become irrelevant.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Ramesh, for that. I will go to Nilesh Vikamsi. Sir, chartered accountants in Australia and in New Zealand, they have in August 2020 published on future financial reporting. And the IASB member actually has also deliberated that issue. What primarily they are talking about, digital financial reporting presents significant advantage to the preparer, auditor, regulator, user, even analyst and other stakeholders also. Though actually this is to be done through unified labeling system, and reports can be tailored to the need of users. But sir, what is suggested by them in a report that every company should make a data bank wherein all the information will be loaded in the form of digital technology plus XBRL reporting. And from that should be made available to the stakeholders. And the user can actually use that information. Therefore, my question is, though XBRL framework even is mandated by MCA or CB in India, it has to travel a long way to get the real benefit to stakeholders. What may be the hurdles or bottleneck to implement and be transparent by way of access to internal information to the stakeholders? What are your views, Nilesh, on this particular one?
Yeah, Zawarisa, my view on this digital financial reporting, and especially we have already seen XBRL implementation in India through the MCA, through Reserve Bank, and to some extent SEBI, that this particular reporting is conducive for the regulators or somebody who's collecting data, or maybe an income tax for comparison and all, using technology because of labeling the tags which are given to each and every cell, the reporting cells which are there. For a user, when we tried, I think in FRRB and all, to use that data XBRL, I think it's we are not able to sort of make any head and tail out of the XBRL data. I'll be very candid with you, whatever limited experience we had in the institute. And it will still have to be detailed in a more user-friendly manner, how we can translate that data in more understanding from a normal user, I would say, a investor or this thing. Yeah, it is very beneficial, as I told you, for the regulators for comparison of data, where everything is standardized, uniformized, all the, I think the rows, the columns, the headings, everything is tagged as for a particular, sort of a taxonomy which is developed. But the same reading for a common man, or I would say common person, I think is challenging on unless you use technology to decipher that and translate it to more, I would say, readable, understanding. Then we'll be able to use. Otherwise, in my view, it will be very difficult to use that data for a normal.
Nilesh, I totally agree with you. Only the problem is, even though we have started this XBRL technology and digital technology long back, number of years before, still we are not able to get the fruits out of that system. Am I right? Do you agree with
Absolutely.
this?
I 100% agree with you. As I told you, we'll need technology to translate that data into something much more understandable, read the way we normally understand the accounts. From a machine reading language, which is the taxonomy, the XBRL is, to a normal human understanding language. I think that conversion, unless that conversion framework is there, I think it'll be very difficult to use on an as-is basis.
So do you agree that future financial reporting will be complete when this type of data bank will be created by a corporate or by the entity which will be available to the various stakeholders?
Yeah, not only created by the entity, which is, see, they are already giving to MCA or to Reserve Bank or to the SEBI. So that can be uploaded on the website. That's not a challenge. Challenge is if I as an investor download from the same website that in the machine language or with the labeling, how do I make any sense out of it?
No,
So
you're
unless
right.
I've got
Yes.
an
Yes.
interface of that particular into a normal understanding accounts using an interface. So creating of that interface is important to convert that machine readable or machine understanding, labeling into normal accounting, I would say.
Right.
That
Right.
interface
I
will
think I think the
Yes, sir.
point which
So,
has been made by Nilesh is that the information is very much useful for the regulators, but the regulators must have the mindset to actually make use of that
to share
information.
with
That's
others,
also
to share
important.
with other stakeholders.
Unfortunately, at least ROCs have not been able to make use of this information. Let me put it so
Not at
far.
all.
It has not been an effective use of the information which has been provided to them. Maybe in the years to come, they will may be able to make some use of it. I think RBI may be in a better position to make use of this particular information in banking sector, in NBFC sector, in UCB sector for that matter. But MCS somewhere or the other has lost that opportunity in the past. But I'm quite sure with whatever we are hearing and whatever interactions we have with the MCA, that in the years to come, even Caro, they are going to make use of it in that particular form. You can be rest assured, Caro information is going to be one of the important tools, and they are going to come out with the electronic form for the Caro. So I personally feel that in the years to come, MCA is also going to make extensive use of it. I still remember in 2010, we sent Mr. Avinash Chandra to China, and he was the member representing us in the XBRL.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now I think
do
the
remember.
present president, Mr. Atul Gupta, has been elected there as the director. Maybe these things catch up, and it is essential that these must catch up, and the regulator should be
Yes,
able to
sir.
make
Yes,
use
sir.
of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chopra
We'll go
sir,
to the next
Reserve Bank
question.
is using this very effectively. XBRL,
Yeah,
all the reporting of banks is to XBRL, all the data which
that,
they are
that,
reporting
that is
for there
exactly what I am saying.
for the analytics purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chopra ji, I'm asking this question to you as a former chairman of the NACAS,
Yeah.
as well as president of ICAI. I have done articleship under you. And the entire process of converging the IFRS into Ind AS, you are the creator. Now, problem is, as I said in the beginning, background information, that there are rule-based accounting and there is a principle-based accounting. There is cost-based accounting, and there is fair value-based accounting. How these two type of standards, and still you say true and fair. So how can we avoid these dual standards to be implemented in the developing economy like India? That is one question. And the question number two, as I said, sir, the IASB and FASB, these are the two schools of thought in the world. How do you view that IASB and FASB? These are the two small questions to you first, sir.
You said I'm the creator. I don't know who is the destroyer. Yes. But the fact remains,
sir.
But the fact remains, one of the regulators did not even bother to actually give the date as to when they will be implementing. Whereas the Reserve Bank of India was very keen that it should be implemented, but I think the economic slowdown and the other factors have actually weighed very heavily against implementation of India's in the banking sector. But I am sure that it will come very soon. The point that you are trying to ask is with regard to the convergence between the Ind AS and the AS, fair value accounting and the historical cost-based accounting is. I can only tell you that the time is not far off then when the institute will have to think over whether fair value accounting should not be applicable even in respect of the medium and small enterprises, because you can't live in a country, you can't live on two kind of systems. There is no way that it can happen.
Exactly.
You may have least of the disclosures which can be permitted, but there is no way that you can continue to live on different kind of systems. But at the same time, the institute will have an onerous task of actually training the members in the Mufassil towns and of course in the cities also. I'm saying even in the cities the same problem exists. People are very reluctant, shy to switch over from cost-based accounting to the you can say the fair value accounting. But at the same time, I will ask you, because you are the chairman of the AOSSD right now.
Yes, sir.
What will be your comments with regard to the fair value accounting? How fair is the fair value accounting for that particular matter? And if I have to ask for the Ind AS 113 for that matter, I think when I read the hierarchy under which the fair valuation has to be done, and not only that, when we talk of Habu, basically the highest and best use, how fair that kind of valuation can be in the given circumstances, I think to me that itself is a challenge. Unless the institute, the regulators can come around and the legal mechanism is there that if at all the frauds are perpetrated through the fair value accounting, people will be brought to book very fast. I think we should not hasten through this particular process. That's the way I look at it. Though I am the creator of the Ind AS, but somewhere or the other one has started feeling that fair value accounting can be very unfair to the readers of the financial statements also in certain circumstances. So, but I am very clear that no country can afford in the long run to live on two systems. One will have to converge to the fair value in the longer run.
Sir, only one question. I do agree with you. And fair value accounting or fair valuation itself is yet to be established in India and many other countries also. Especially, I observed in Asian Oceanian region, this fair value concept is not yet stabilized, I can say. And sir, the problem is in Japan, there are three type of systems, financial reporting systems are used. Some companies use IFRS, some companies use the US GAAP, and many companies use local GAAP. What confusion is, they are also confused. In number of global meetings, they talked about that IASB and FASB should come together. But you know the obvious problem. Though there are some joint projects are there, they are not yet fully synchronized with each other.
But one good thing that Javre Sahab happened is that US has recognized one thing at least, that if you are following IFRS, in that particular case, you need not translate the accounts into the FASB for that matter. So I think that's a good factor. So
yes, sir.
To that extent, you might feel that IASB has been able to dominate FASB in some legal measure. I will not say fully, but to some extent, they have been able to do that.
That's I witnessed. Yes, sir. You are right.
Zavre Sahab, I just want to give a different perspective to these questions and the comments of Chopra Sahab. Absolutely valid comments. I think what we need to understand, we are in the first phase of the implementation of Ind AS or the fair value, if I can say so. So I appreciate there will be differences in the assumptions, estimate, judgments used by the companies. But I'm saying time is not far away where the analysts will start comparing these differences and start escalating I would say, the people who are conservative, liberal, or whatever, maybe the optimistic, pessimistic. So I think those type of reporting, and there will be some standardization around this fair value also, hopefully. Second, I think the valuation profession as such, where other than the institutional financial, I would say, valuation, we were governing in our own way for our members. I would say whether it is the PPE valuation, the property, plant and equipment, I think that whole regimen has not been regulated at all in the earlier times. I think we have seen absolutely absurd valuations when we do bank audits of buildings, etc., and land, and we have seen suddenly it falling down, etc. But I think with the again evolution of the value or organizations and the regulation, it being regulated now, through IBBI, I think maybe it will take some more time, few years, to stabilize this whole process of fair value.
I agree. Yes, sir.
I think the market itself will sort of evolve. And again, from an implementation perspective, as we said, cost as well as fair value, what is more right? I again agree with Chopra Sahab, it has to be one system across. But I think we are phasing out. We are taking sort of step by step. I think there's a right way rather than having a big bang approach of implementing across. But at a certain point of time, we'll have to shift to and train our people to get into the fair value of accounting with the proper fair value, not the fair value.
Sir, can I share my worry as at present? What should have happened? The Ind AS standard should have been made applicable to banks and insurance sector first, because today, when financial statements are submitted to the bank, they are not aware about the Ind AS and they are not able to judge. And therefore, what Chopra ji has concern about the scams, that is absolutely right. That this system may be misused because bankers are also not able to understand the entire India's accounting. People are not trained. Only few people in Reserve Bank of India know IFRS. Does not mean the banking sector is aware about it. Ramesh, do you agree with this? What I'm saying?
No, I don't agree, because you have to remember that where I agree with you is, it is possible that bankers are not familiar with Ind AS. To that extent, but to
Okay.
get the banks to do Ind AS first and thereafter its constituents or its borrowers to do is the wrong approach. You see, banking very critical. The confidence of the general public is in the banks. We can't have the confidence shaken. You know, cost is a reality, fair value is an opinion. And when you're moving to Ind AS, there is a lot of shift from cost to fair value. And when you're doing fair value, look at it this way. If rupees 74 rupees to a dollar, today evening 5 o'clock. Tomorrow morning it is 75 rupees to a dollar. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon it is 72 rupees to a dollar. What is fair value? It is going like this. That is big. That is the challenge. So your banking industry, even when the study was done a few years ago, they were to move to expected credit loss model and other aspects of Ind AS. It would have meant a dent of at least 4 lakh crores or even more
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
industry, and that would have meant huge, shall I say, capital infusion which would have been required.
Yes, yes.
Now, in trying to correct your, trying to have a feather in your cap, saying I've implemented this in the banking sector, you have caused turmoil in the economy and in the public, unintended consequences. Fundamentally, accounting should not impact business, whichever accounting you do.
Correct.
Unfortunately,
I agree.
Accounting creates financial reporting, which leads to perceptions. We have to be very careful into what sort of perceptions we are conveying. In the good old days, when I started my accounting, it was very good. Debit the receiver, credit the giver, debit what comes and credit what goes out. So it was so clear. Today, with our standards, and we write pages and pages and make it more complex. And now even the financial statements, we are now saying P&L has to have these 3 lines, even more confusing. We have made it something which only an accountant's mumbo jumbo and they only can understand.
Correct,
So
correct.
please,
So, PR
let us
Ramesh,
not-
in this
banking
contest,
is very sensitive. We have to be careful.
in this contest, I will just share. I was in Merck company. Merck is the second largest pharmaceutical in the world, and I was sharing with them about the accrual system of accounting, and I was talking about the IFRS, and they were talking about the US GAAP. What the chief of finance said, and to what extent you agreed, tell me. He said accrual is a probability and reality is cash flow. So they say we do all our, exactly what you talk about, a business, that cash flow is the reality. So is it that cash flow is the future of accounting, financial reporting?
Cash
Let us prepare the cash flow statement,
cash is
understand.
king.
No, I'm
But
not
at the
putting
same
a
time,
question, sir.
no, Davre Saab, if that is true, are you satisfied with our government accounting?
Government accounting.
No,
Where
not at
bills
all.
are unpaid and you say budget surplus. Are you satisfied? Is that the correct accounting?
No. I agree with you. No problem. That's what they
Accrual-
talked about. I just say. Shared with you.
Accrual, the
Yes.
correct accounting. So let us not, in trying to, both are important. Cash is important to understand certain things. It is like your blood pressure reading is also as important as your temperature reading is important.
Absolutely.
We have to be
Sir,
clear as-
I'll go to the next question. Okay, I agreed. I will go to the next question. And this question is to Ramesh only.
Okay.
Sir, many companies voluntarily present financial ratios. What I observed through a limited research in AOSHG, that only the favorable ratios are presented in many countries. I'm not talking only India, even developed countries also. So I have taken one project through AOSHG. Now, earning per share, Chopra ji will agree with me, sir. When I appeared for CA final, how to calculate earning per share? Problem was not of a numerator, but problem was a denominator. We were taking number of equity shares at the beginning of the year, some we are taking at the end of the year, some we are taking opening plus closing divided by 2. But when EPS standard has come, now we understood that weighted average number of equity shares concept. So I am taking a project to IASB as far as financial ratios are concerned. Good thing in India, SEBI has already mandated the listed companies that in case if there is a variation of 25% or more in the selected ratios, that you have to make a reporting. So what I'm trying to press to the IASB, that why not to have a standard for various financial ratios, because the numerator, denominator, composition is totally different and there is a lot of variation and misleading to the stakeholders. So what are your views on this particular financial reportings as a part of the future reporting?
Okay, so let me give you the conclusion first. Conclusion is I agree with you. Okay.
Okay.
And then
you have to say something, sir?
No, let me now explain. Our own financial reports can only be understood by accountants, not by non-accountants. It's all numbers, 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 numbers. You can't make sense about it. Whatever it is, whichever way, current, non-current, whatever it is. It is like, imagine if you went for a today, when you go for your blood test or any of the pathological tests, you get a detailed report saying what is the reading, what is range, whether you are out of range, etc. Clearly correct. Unfortunately, our financial reports don't have any ratios. When I say any, there are some few here and there. SEBI has prescribed all that. To make it of some utility, I am very clear that we need to have ratios. Second, for ratios, for everybody to consistently apply, you need a standard. And that standard should specify how a ratio should be computed. A layman who still doesn't understand how your EPS is computed because he doesn't know all your technicalities of how when bonus share is issued, all that. He just compares the EPS. It is only for the preparer that to ensure consistency that there is a standard, not so much for a user. And therefore, we need to prescribe ratios. We need to have standard detail how the ratio to be computed. And that's the third. We need to also have guidance as to how to interpret the ratio. Even in the pathology report, it says if your lipid profile, if your LDH is a certain number or whatever it is, it tells you what it means, whatever it is. So we need what that.
Okay. Yes, thank you for that, Nilesh.
Javed, of course, again, let me first come with the conclusion. I agree with you and with Ramesh. But my understanding is IASB is coming out with a new standard on this presentation of the financial accounts. Voice is not clear?
No, clear. Continue, please.
Possibly in that outreach, they were very clear that they don't want to get into ratios, disclosure. That's what if my memory serves me right. I attended an outreach program of the IASB, the new standard they're coming out with. They said they are not going to, recommend ratios to be presented because there was some. It was a divided view in the IASB whether to give or not to give, and there's some reasoning behind it. I think we need to look at the basis for conclusion.
No, I will just update you for the time being. Yeah. When I made a presentation in IFAS, there is Accounting Standard Advisory Forum. Primarily, they have listed the financial ratios for primary consideration. Let us see how it works.
Fine, then it's good. Then that's the updated view because yeah.
Correct. Chopra ji.
So, Javed Sahab, I also will like to start with what Ramesh did very wisely. I concur with you. Basically, the only thing I would like to apprise you is that the only thing I would like to probably. I think the only thing I would like to apprise you is I think MCA is already seized of the matter and probably the schedule 3 might undergo a change wherein the ratios will have to be indicated. You can be sure about it. You see, it's certain ratios which can be uniformly applied. Those ratios will definitely come into play. And certain ratios, because we were talking of the predictive value and other things to begin with, those ratios which can describe your position today and probably tomorrow. I think one of the very important questions in Caro itself, if, the language of which has been given by Ramesh, he's the creator of that language. If you ask me, of course the question was given by me, but the language was given by him. We have gone on to say whether the company will be in a position to meet its liabilities in the near future, which talks more or less of solvency to a little extent. So those kind of questions are already there, and in context of that, we went into the ratios also. The government was
Yes.
very keen that some kind of ratio should be there, and I think as and when the schedule 3 gets sees the light of the day, the revised schedule, you will find the ratios being there. So I personally feel it is happening. So far as India is concerned, IASB may or may not do it, but India may become the leader in this.
Absolutely, sir. That exactly before I ask to the next question, only India and the SEBI has put these financial ratios
Yeah.
in order. Otherwise, in other countries, there is no such requirement. Very good.
No.
Chopra ji, now I'm going to ask.
ICI should have taken the lead, and ICI should come ahead and then say this is it, not MCA or SEBI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Chopra ji, now the question to you. When we were the students of auditing and accounting, it was said at that time in Kingston Cotton Mill Company's case, auditor is a watchdog and not a bloodhound. This was a famous case. That's what we were studying actually. But day to day, because of the digital advancement, the frauds are and the scams are increasing day by day. Primarily, the fraudster finds out a loophole of the digital or electronic system and makes a fraud. But now the problem is, whenever there is a fraud, the auditor is first blamed by the society. They don't understand the intricacies. Now we have to save our profession. Can you give the advice to our members about the responsibility and the carefulness, preventive measures to be taken while handling the ERP data during the audit process? And PR Ramesh will also talk further. But sir, this is the worry, and therefore the profession is getting damaged. You are aware about the scams after scams in the last couple of years.
Javre sir, number one, I will like to set the things right and straight. It is not only because of the digital part. I don't think the frauds have occurred only because of the digital part. All these NPAs which are there with the banks are not because of the digital. I think this is siphoning of the funds, the greed of the promoter, the greeds of the other professionals. Why valuer was overvaluing the assets? Why rating agencies have failed? Why lawyers have failed? Why chartered accountants failed to detect it? Not because of digital. Let me be very clear. I think either it was because of the greed or it was because of the negligence. Do we want to say the bankers were not able to read the digital form? No, the bankers had the digital data everywhere. The bankers were also failing because of the greed part. So I personally feel these frauds cannot be attributed only to the digital part. So that's not the case. And so far as the other part is concerned, I think rather the cyber systems provide you the means to catch hold of. If there are exception reports, if you can analyze the data properly, you can actually raise those alerts far more quickly than what you used to otherwise. I am very clear. This Kingston Cotton Mill case, which you have referred to, that said that we are watchdogs. I say we may not be biting dogs, but we have to be barking dogs at least. Unfortunately, we have refused to be either biting dogs or barking dogs. After all, SA 240 has been there. SA 240 has been there for 8 years, decades. So it's not that it has come now, but whether we have actually complied. You think of a situation where in Caro we had to come up with a question that please give whether the returns which are supposed to be submitted to the bankers as per the agreement with the between the borrowers and the bankers, whether those returns are as per the books of account or not. Why this question has been raised?
Absolutely.
It's not because of digital information. Let's be very clear. It's because of the other considerations. I personally feel when we go to the branches today, when we go to the circle offices today, sitting over there, we can find out if we can apply the information correctly and if we can apply the tools correctly. Since when the payment has not been received, and it is just by the switch of a button that you can do it. But then if you ignore that information, you cannot blame the system. You have to blame your effort, your negligence in that particular case.
Sir, only in this case, it is said that whatever the internal information you use for decision-making process or other compliances, and the external information should be the same. And that is the future reporting. Anileji.
Zaure sir, today you mentioned technology or whatever creating fraud. I would say the technology itself will help us to detect any wrongdoing. Everything is possible. We got querying, the type of querying you use using technology. All, as Chopra Sahab said, whether we are interpreting the data properly once the data comes up after querying is an issue. Having said that, one more larger issue, Zaure sir, I want to bring over here is today the expectation of I would say the regulators in the society is a moment CS certifies there should be no fraud, which in my view is a very, very high expectation. So I think the earlier we were saying we are skeptical, we see the information in a skepticism is what we use in analyzing information. And as far as fraud is concerned, it is more of an investigation if you want to see whether the fraud or not. But I think we'll have to have a threshold between skepticism and investigation. We'll have to go some steps forward, not up to investigation, even in the normal audit. I'm not able to get the exact word coinage what to do that, but that is the society's expectation today, that we can't say that, it is true and fair or whatever. We are just watchdogs and not bloodhounds. We may not become another category will have to be found between watchdogs and bloodhounds, and we'll have to do that role if we have to continue to be relevant.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. In this connection only, I will just ask the question to PR Ramesh further to deliberate that what type of training is required to be given to our members as far as forensic accounting and auditing is concerned, so that they will be more careful in future.
Sure. Yeah, but let me touch upon what has been spoken.
Yes, sir.
I think the pendulum is somewhere in between. On the one side, businesses have grown out significantly in size. They become more complex. The business transactions are now dispersed widely geographically for an auditor to be present at a particular place. Impact of technology. There's so many new laws, etc., are there. That is one side where the environment in which an auditor has to operate. The second, on the other side, the auditor unfortunately has moved away from what I would call a thinking auditor to an inking auditor. Now there is so much emphasis on documentation because the regulator will see. You'll find increasingly first he'll start to say, what can I write? And that will take away precious time from him to be actually think. Because within that limit, time is the same today for audit. In fact, it is lesser than it was in the past. But the documentation requirements are enormous. So essentially, and then the third dimension, which is very important, is we call it expectation, all that is fine. The shift of regulators, the investigative agencies, and the users, the society at large, has shifted not only towards frauds, but what is the nature of fraud? If you give a loan to a subsidiary also, it could be termed as diversion. But the critical thing, shift, 2020 requiring, which is there in the Companies Act, an auditor is required to opine whether investments, loans and advances, or the transactions of investments, loans and advances are not prejudicial to the interests of the company. Now, when you're talking of prejudicial, you're moving away from fact in a way to opinion. You have to form, is it prejudicial? So you're asked to comment. That requires a different thing. And lastly, I would like to say, before I come to what sort of training, is we need auditors. When a watchdog by definition means you're seeing something and then deciding whether to bark, to attack, or whatever. We need bloodhounds. I think what is the essential difference? We are not getting into dogs' life, but the point is these auditors who can smell, not those who can just. That is what is important. We need to get that smell back into an audit. Earlier, we used to be at a
Absolutely.
client's place, we could smell things happening. Today, you are remote, your technology, you may not be able to smell, but still looking at that data, an auditor should be able to smell a fraud, not necessarily see a fraud. And that is the training which forensic provides. Forensic gives all those tools to be able to say, here are, it doesn't seem right. These are the outliers. And that is why even the Dryden report in the UK talked about mandatory forensic training for the auditors. And I think it is time that ICAI, as part of its CPE programs and mandatory CPE, if I am qualified to be an auditor or part of an audit team, I should have mandatory forensic training
Absolutely.
for us. That law institute should proactively come out with a mandate and saying anybody who is involved in an audit should have accumulated so many hours of CPE or forensic.
Of the forensic accounting and auditing. Thank you for that
Begin with
suggestion.
that.
I think that is the reality, and that is required for the future. We'll go to the next area. Actually, I just said earlier, internal information circulated among the management team for decision making and external information reported to the stakeholders. There is a gap. That's what survey talks about. Now, this information, if it comes by way of a financial reporting, which is to be certified or opinion is to be given by the auditor. Now, you are aware about auditor's independence. Auditor's independence. My main question is on auditor's independence. See, it is the normal tendency if the information is sensitive. The entities try actually disclose that type of information. Now, in this case, auditor's independence is required to be maintained. So, with this backdrop, my question is, please highlight and deliberate how an auditor is to maintain his independence as far as transparent financial reporting is concerned. And my another question will be to Chopraji also in that connection, how ICAI and the NAFRA now as a regulator should ensure the quality of audit. And is it possible to develop some parameter like audit index for the measurement of the audit quality? First to PR Ramesh and then Chopraji. Niriji can support further.
I'll address the last part. I'll leave some of the other parts to it. You know, this whole issue of audit quality indicators or audit quality maturity model. It is true that it's engaging the Institute and the Center for Audit Quality is coming out with something fairly soon. But is about in terms of what an auditor has put in, how many hours, what sort of people of experience, shall I say, what are the areas he covered, maybe sample size. You can come up with many indicators, but all of those indicators will be input indicators. And from that input indicators, you form a view saying, yeah, it is of quality. But it does not necessarily, unless you actually look at what an auditor has done and what it is, you judge quality. You know, it is something like, if I have gone for Zavre coaching class, there is a perception that I am a quality student. So it's a different matter that I may not have absorbed a lot of it. That is a different matter. So this is what audit quality indicators. But I think audit, to some extent, it helps enhancing quality because of the type of reporting, an auditor will start taking care. Just as when Caro came in or Mao Caro came in, auditors, it enhanced audit quality because auditors were focusing on certain areas. So that on that extent, I am all for audit quality indicators, but to expect that that is the barometer for audit quality, the answer is
okay.
There are lots of parts to your question.
Yes. Chopraji, you want to say something?
On what? On all the aspects, or on only on with regard to the audit in parameters?
Audit parameters, primarily audit parameters.
No, I fully
subscribe to.
I fully subscribe to what Ramesh has said. merely indicating the parameters or merely writing the parameters is not going to help. Let's be very clear about it. Whether we have actually followed those parameters is more important. Believe me, I'm looking at a particular case without naming in the case, wherein probably in one day, the number of transactions which have taken place with one party. Why those transactions have taken place, I don't want to get into. Now, if somebody will say, I picked up this particular sample size, but if I really look at now, this sample size, despite being picked up, was never followed. Now, unfortunately, somebody will say that this was my sample size, but if that sample size has not been actually been taken care of, how you really react to that kind of situation? The other thing that one will like to say is that you asked us the question with regard to NAFRA, how the NAFRA will get into this. You see, my greatest challenge is that NAFRA, if at all, will continue to be manned by bureaucrats. When I say particularly the chairman being a bureaucrat, I think, and particularly if in the disciplinary committee we are going to have bureaucrats, and these are not going to be chartered accountants primarily, we are going to face problems. I personally feel, I urge upon the government, and I have been saying it very vocally, that at least in the disciplinary committee of the, or on the quality part of the inspection department of the NAFRA should be manned by the chartered accountant. It should not be done by the others, because the doctor can only know where the surgery has wrongly taken place. No one else can actually know that. Can we say that in a medical council we will appoint some bureaucrat to find out how the surgery had taken place? No.
Yes.
I think somewhere or the other we have to take up those issues. NAFRA cannot tell us what is going to be the sample size. NAFRA cannot tell me what kind of working paper is going to be there. I think NAFRA has to focus on certain areas. NAFRA is a very good creation. I'm all for it. I'm not opposing NAFRA under any circumstances. I personally feel in case of the public interest entities, NAFRA could have been there. No doubt about it. But NAFRA has also to follow a particular path wherein the quality actually improves. When you are undertaking an inspection, and in the inspection itself, you cannot hold somebody guilty.
Okay, correct.
The guilty has to be held by some other department, by some other committee. I think that's very important. Today, what is happening is, in the inspection stage itself, we are holding somebody guilty, which is not fair, and we are tarnishing somebody's image. That should not happen under any circumstances. I personally feel very pained when it happens, because even when the cases come to the disciplinary committee, it is a matter of life and death of the person concerned. It's not so simple. Today, if the quality review board undertakes something, it comes to the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee can come to a different verdict. But if in the inspection stage of the NAFRA, we come up with a verdict and the same person is going to chair the other committee also where the disciplinary action is to be taken, the verdict is already given. I don't think that should happen. Maker and checker cannot be the same person. It has to be different. So my humble submission is, I think we as ICI, we will definitely be taking it up at personal levels. But at ICI level, we have to take up that the inspection committee and the disciplinary committee cannot be headed by the same person under any circumstances. And the verdict cannot be given at the inspection stage. Because if you give the verdict, you can find out what are the deficiencies. You can say that these are the deficiencies. No doubt about it. But you cannot say, and you can make some kind of statements which are not desirable against certain professionals. I think that's very important. I don't think any person will say in so many words these kind of things. But I think one needs to say it. I'm definitely taking up the cause of the profession, and so far as the independence is concerned, I'm very sure that Ramesh and Nilesh will not agree with me on this particular point. I am very clear on it. Somewhere or the other, the appointing authority cannot be the same whose audit you are going to undertake. We have been fighting for the same at the bank level, but when it comes to the companies, we say no, the auditors must be appointed by and we continue to say that the auditors are being appointed by the shareholders. What shareholders? Not by the shareholders. It's a gimmick. It's absolutely wrong to say that the shareholders are appointing the auditors. It is still the management of the companies. The top promoter appoints the auditor of the company, and you expect the auditor to be independent. It is a very big statement that I'm making. I personally feel somewhere or the other in the companies beyond a particular threshold limit, where the public interest is involved, the auditors must be appointed either by the SEBI or by some other authority. It should not be
Exactly,
appointed
sir.
by the. It should not be appointed by the management, because if you appoint them through, now somebody will say that you are challenging whatever has been done so far since 1949. I'm not challenging. What I am saying is something held good at a particular point of time. Today, with the kind of scams which are coming in, at least let us create a public perception. I am for that particular point. Let's create a public perception that the appointment of the auditor is being made by a person different than whose audits are being audited. His fee is not being fixed by the same person. I think that's very important. Somebody may say that it will lead to certain other malpractices. I think we need to cross the bridge when it comes to. Yeah, thank you.
We understand. Your point is very important. Only from that perception, the question was asked about the auditor's appointment. Because finally, prerequisite of quality audit is there should be an audit. Auditors must have independence. And only from that angle, I asked that question. Very good. Nilesh, you want to say something in just brief, just crisp?
I want to take this opportunity to dwell a little bit
time
on
with us is hardly about 10 minutes.
Now, I will just conclude this one very important thing, which may slightly be divergent from the point we're discussing, but again, relevant for the matter. Since we have a lot of people listening to this, I would want to caution everyone, those who are doing audit, please look at the NFRA order. And I just want to highlight a few things on what are the expectations as far as the audit documentation is concerned. I think the major part of our people will be in this attending will be SMPs. There, the audit documentation itself is a challenge, I think, the first level. But what the expectation of the, I would say, NFRA is in the audit quality reports which they have come out with is one is line by line compliance of the standards of auditing. Second, even if certain procedure is not required to be done under a SA, standard of auditing, one needs to document why it has not been done. Why it is not been done, that document is required. Then communication with the management also, more document is required, whether it's planning, execution. Then again, communication with those charged with governance. We generally have an audit committee presentation, and that is our sort of a dialogue. But I think the expectation of the NFRA is there should be much more dialogue with the those charged with governance, which is either the audit committee or other people. And even the hot reviews or the partner reviews, their documentation, the time spent, there's a threshold which the NFRA is expecting. There cannot be two engagement partners. I don't know how far it is going to extend the test of law, whether NFRA can get into all those minute detailing. But I'm just cautioning our members, please have a look at the audit quality review orders. I'm sure many of them will not stand the test of law or the test of audit itself. But having said that, the fact that those are come, we need to be cognizant, number one. Number two, on the management services, I think most of the profession we have been used to the auditors rendering tax services, etc. And I think even in the issued code of ethics, it is allowed that auditors can do tax services. But again, this particular order of NFRA, the way it has, interpreted section 144, where MC has not interpreted it now, not given a definition, despite institute writing to MC a number of times on guiding on how this has to be interpreted. MC has not, but NFRA has come out with. They have said it has to be understood in the normal or dictionary sense of it. It has to be given a literal and a direct meaning. That's what the management service has to do. And what they're saying is management services performed by statutory auditor for the management, either the actions and functions which otherwise would have been done by the management, or B, providing any kind of support, which includes analysis, research, advice that is required by the management for the purpose of those functions or actions. So I don't think under this definition we can do anything else. If that was the understanding under the Companies Act, the MCA should have said the Companies Act auditor cannot do anything else. But the fact is, this is the, I would say the 10th or the 15th item in that particular list of what cannot be done. In my humble view, I think this interpretation is not correct. But having said that, I would want the members who are attending this program to be cognizant of this fact, where the regulators are moving. This will definitely be challenged, and I'm sure even the institute is going to respond to both the way the standards of auditing have been interpreted and the way management services have been sort of defined by NFRA. I hope that the institute takes it up at a very strong level with NFRA and with the FCA. That's my only request to the institute, and plus to the audience also. Please be cognizant of these two major developments.
Thank you, Nilesh.
Just
Thank
one
you,
minute,
Nilesh.
1 minute comment to Jhavre Saab to what Nilesh has said. I think we need to take it up that whatever has been done, that is based upon an interpretation which was given by the Code of Ethics and by the MCA.
Correct.
If you want to make it prospective, you make it prospective, but you cannot hold the people guilty for
Correct.
your
Agreed.
own interpretation.
Agreed.
So I
Yes,
think
sir.
that's very important. That's all. Thank you very much.
My
Javed Sahab,
request to all the panelists now, sir, time is very limited. Number of questions can be asked and we can go on
No.
deliberating the issue. Last question I'll ask you, and then I will take one or two questions from the participants. And this question to everybody, absolutely give the crisp answer. Sir, one of the reports says in most of the cases, ticking the compliance box, that something financial report is doing extremely well. Compliance part is well, but they are not conveying the information in a clear and concise way. And PR Ramesh talked about that don't give only the information of the past, give the information about the future also. And it is further said that the future belongs to those with the energy to lead and the imagination to make the things better. In other words, I'm talking about that how do you visualize improvement in future financial reporting from qualitative and quantitative aspects? Just crisp answer that what are the areas where future reporting can be further enhanced to every participant, panelist. I'm sorry. Nilesh.
I think basically, Zavare Saab, as we discussed, one is the financial reporting moving into, I think, all the, even the SME, maybe after a few years into the Ind AS or the fair value or whatever. That is the first, I would say, requisite. Better fair valuation by whatever regulatory methods which are there. And the other non-financial information, how that can be made part of the report. Today, the analysts want more other information, as Ramesh also pointed out earlier. How does that become part of the overall report? May not be the financial report, but I would say the overall annual report or the information report, whether it's integrated reporting, ESG or sustainability reporting. I think all those things, how do we capture it? In my view, that's a way forward in the overall understanding of the company, I would say, performance, apart from the financial reporting.
Javed Sahab, I will give just one crisp answer. And to me, very frankly, compliance is not important. What is important is the crux, basically, and what you have actually done. And I think Ramesh has already answered that an auditor needs to be a smeller, basically, and he should be able to come up with some of the very crisp findings. So I think Caro is bringing out many things. If you really ask me, it will improve the reporting part thereof. I will leave it at this particular thought process, and I have to leave at this juncture. Javed Sahab, I hope you don't mind. This was probably your last question. I have some pressing thing for which I may have to leave.
Zavare Sahab, you're on mute. Zavare Sahab, you're on mute. You're on mute, Zavare Sahab.
Thank you. Now you are able to hear me?
Yes.
We are able to hear. Yes. But at this stage, I will have to leave, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your valuable advice and valuable information given to all the members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks
to everybody.
Thank you, Chopra.
Thanks to everybody, and it was very enriching to me, at least. I can only tell you.
Okay, sir, we'll just take two questions from the audience, if permitted. Can we take the two questions, organizers?
Only I'm okay. And Ramesh also is okay.
Yeah.
Can you open the forum?
You see, it is like this. When a train is late, it doesn't matter afterwards how late it is.
Any participant want to ask any question to the panelists? Two panelists are here.
Mishraji, question.
There are 2 minutes.
Nilesh has also gone.
He'll come back. I'm sure there's some connectivity.
Yes, he is back. Okay. No, we are not able to hear the participants.
No, I think I don't know whether there's a chat box or something. Whether it can come in a chat. I'm not too sure of the system
No,
because we are in the
no.
panelist link. In the regular link, Drishti,
They are
is there
trying,
any
they are trying
question?
to get. They are trying to get the information.
Ah.
So, question is: more and more learned practicing chartered accountants with significant experience of auditing, large business should be a part of a regulatory body to appreciate the effort done by the auditor. Like we have PCOAOB having ex-CA firm partner hired at good salaries to review the file of auditors. Actually, this was what Chopra ji was also talking about.
Absolutely, I think it's a no-brainer. It has to be only the CAs can, practicing CAs, I would say, can analyze what the other person has done, the auditor.
Second question was, let the regulator hold exam or have a selected process to take the exam. Will be maybe members will be reluctant, where people leave their existing job or practice and take up a job with regulator, so that they are part of the regulator and then to review and separate as a part of the DC. Okay, thank you for suggestion, nothing for deliberation. Third question is, sir, I personally think that big investors in many companies bothered about only financial and maybe least bothered about the reporting, which can be a part of integral reporting. Answer, not necessarily actually this one. So in future financial reporting, how matters other than financial will impact company's market cap or addition to stakeholders of the company? This is the question asked by Nishant. Nilesh ji or Ramesh?
I think Nilesh can take it.
No, here it is like this. See, the question is on a sustainability front, assuming that say the company is in some technology which is not going to survive, or maybe say let's look at today. Of course, the coal companies are still surviving, but assuming there's a huge UN cry against the thermal power plants that they should stop. There's a worldwide this thing, and so today the companies which are in production of coal or maybe thermal power, they have to close down. So whether that type of, I would say, other reporting is required or not. Second is, I would say, as Ramesh pointed out earlier, the number of subscribers. Say what we come to know today from the newspaper, that amongst the telecom companies, one particular company is losing subscribers, rapidly, and the other two companies are gaining. So whether that type of information, which is not their part of the financial information, whether it is required or not, to understand for the investors where the company is heading towards that. So in my view, it is absolutely, sort of essential. Maybe it's a personal view of Nishant, so I don't know to comment more. Ramesh, you want to add something to that?
No, I agree. I don't think it is correct to say investors are not interested in other information.
Absolutely.
In fact, that's why I said if you look at analyst calls, if you look at all what is written, the big investors in big companies are interested beyond just financials.
Absolutely.
Because you can lose your license to operate if you are violating environment and other things. And increasingly, people would like to be associated with companies who invest in clean energy or contribute to the environment. So that is, I don't.
Anyway, we'll take the last question, but I really don't understand what they want to say. Do we have any software or application for calculating depreciation as per the income tax rules? Block of concept asset. Now we use the Excel. Okay, you can use as against the depreciation under the Companies Act, fair value accounting.
The future is the session. So this is out of syllabus question.
Correct. Out of syllabus, and Excel is there. Chartered accountants are expert as far as operation of Excel is concerned. So thank you. I give back the session to the organizers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I will say that everyone will agree today that the STAR session was extremely relevant to make us, aware of the important developments in the field of financial reporting and make us future ready. Learned Shri Chopra sir, who had to leave early, had put up the perspective of members in a very, forthright, absolutely straightforward manner. Sir, you have read the minds of members at large and rightly highlighted the issues and realities. Thank you very much for gracing this platform and sharing your views. Nilesh sir has put up the reality of the user of the information, evolution of standards and requirements, throwing light on the nuances of NAFRA. Thank you, sir, for sharing your words of experience. It has been really very helpful. Ramesh sir has thrown light on the various futuristic disclosures requirement, the need for moving on to new age accounting and responsibilities, making financials more relevant. Thank you, sir, very much for gracing this platform and sharing your views. And above all, we are able to have this excellent discussion since it was catalyzed by learned Shri Zavre sir, who with the depth of his knowledge and seniority got the most of this illustrious panel. Thank you, sir, very much for sparing your valuable time this evening. We are really privileged to have benefited from this very, very enriching discussion. And on behalf of all of us at WRC and the entire fraternity which has gathered here, I would like to propose a very well-deserved vote of thanks to the learned faculty for sharing their valuable time on this Christmas Eve and give the gift of knowledge and insight to all of us. Thank you all very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Zavre. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nilesh.